Hello there my lovely jewelry makers, I'm Christina of CSLdesigns, and in today's tutorial I'm going to show you how to make these Wirework Northern Christmas Stars. So I'm going to show you a basic technique of making the star. You can then play around with the design and customize it to your own preference. And you can use it for jewelry, decorations or anything else you can think of. Now if you like my tutorials and you want to help support me in any way, you can always check out my shop where I sell loads of jewelry kits and tutorials. And while you're there, you can also sign up to my newsletter. I always add little motivational quotes into those, as that's something that means a lot to me, so I like to share them with you as well. And of course, you can always like, share and subscribe on my YouTube. And there's also a super thanks button below the video if you want to support me that way, so I can keep making these tutorials for you. Otherwise, if you want to learn how to make these Northern Christmas stars, then keep watching. So these are the materials that we're going to need. Now the wire I'm using is a regular round copper wire and silver coated copper wire. The first gauge here is a 1mm. This will just be a base wire as we're working with it, but it won't be part of the final piece. Then we need a 0.4mm. Now this we're going to use to attach the bead with. And finally a 0.6mm here. Now this we're going to actually be weaving with to make the star. Now of course we also can't forget our bead. So I'm using a faceted silver coated hematite gemstone bead and it's 6mm in size. Of course you can use whatever kind of bead you prefer. And we just need one per northern star. And then of course also whatever findings you'll need depending what you choose to use this for. Now we need some pliers as well so we can cut our wire of course. So I've got my flush cutters here. And then I have some chain nose and twist nose pliers to manipulate the wire and for any jump rings. Now you can check out the description box below the video for the material list and useful links. Otherwise let's get it all ready and let's get started. So then we need to prep our wire. So first of all, it has 6 lengths of about 15 centimeters each of our 1mm base wire. So these will just be used while we're working with it to create our piece, and make sure that they're nice and straight as well so we don't have any obvious kinks or bends in them. As for the 0.6mm, we're just going to leave that attached to the reel, that way we'll have minimum wastage. And as for the 0.4mm, I'm going to cut a length of about 20 centimeters just so we have enough to work with. So to get started, we're going to grab our base wire, so the 1mm, and then also the weaving wire, so the 0.6mm here. And I'm just going to take one base wire at a time. So first of all, we need to attach the weaving wire. And I'm just going to do that by leaving a short little tail, put it behind the base wire, and then just wrapping it around once, all the way like that. So it's now attached. And then I'm just going to wrap it around again, just like this here. So I now have 2 wraps with the weaving wire around one single base wire. Then I'm going to grab 3 more of the base wires. So just grab 3 at the same time. I'm going to lay them above the first one and also on top of the weaving wire there. And just make sure they're laying flat next to each other. I'm then going to take my weaving wire, go over the top of all of them and come down behind. Now what I just like to do as I'm making my wraps here is make sure that my base wires keep lying flat next to each other, so using a pair of pliers to squeeze them flat can help with that. But then from there we need to then add in the remaining 2 base wires. So grab those, again make sure they're lying flat next to each other, and these are now the new top ones. So just lay them on top of the rest of them. And then bring the weaving wire here over the top of all of them, and then start to come down behind. And again, if you need to, just squeeze all the base wires nice and tight together so they're all laying flat next to each other, while then just positioning the weaving wire in place. Now from here, what we need to do is bring the weaving wire over the top of all the base wires, but we need to come down through the gap that was created when we made the equivalent wrap on the other side of the longest one there. So that is between the second and third one from the top. And then we just want to bring this down, tighten it, and again make sure that they're flat next to each other while bringing the weaving wire all the way down the back. And if you need to at any point, you can also use your pliers to help push your wraps together so they become nice and tight. Now from here, I'm going to then wrap around the bottom base wire by itself. That was once, then I'm going to do it a few more times, so that's twice, 3 times, and then the 4th time. So I've done 4 wraps along the bottom base wire, and again, and just make sure all the base wires are nice and flat. I'm then going to make another little flourish like we just did before. So kind of that wrap section where we have the weaving wire come further up the base wires there. This time though, all the base wires are already in place, so we don't have to worry about adding them in. So I'm just going to take the weaving wire, straight away go down through that gap. That was the short one of the extended wraps. So again, that's between the second and third base wire from the top. Squeeze everything flat while bringing the weaving wire down the back, and then bring it up over the top of all of the wires and then down behind them all. So you can see that was the long one of the wraps. And then we just need to do the equivalent one on the other side that we just did before. So come down through that gap, tighten any wires at any point, and then flatten them down while bringing the weaving wire down behind again. So that is the next little wrap section there. That's the second one. We then need to do the wraps around the bottom base wire by itself. At any point, squeeze it tight if you need to. And then we need to do the same amount of single wraps here around that bottom base wire that we did between those two sections. So I've done 2. I need to do 3 and a 4th one. So they basically just create the spacing between those wrapped sections. But we're now in a position to make the next section. So again, come down through that gap, and you just want to do this another 2 times, including the one we're just going to do now. So in total, we're going to end up with 4. So now I got my 4 sections of wraps. What we just need to make sure of is that we have the right amount of the single wraps on the ends. So when we started out, if you remember, we made 2 individual wraps there on the bottom base wire. What we want to make sure to do is that we finish with the same amount. So I've also made 2 individual wraps on the bottom base wire at the end. But what we can then do now is cut off the excess of the weaving wire. So I'm just going to cut it off towards the bottom here of all my base wires. So something like this. And then we can also just get rid of the tail from the other end. Again, just do that towards the bottom. And then you just want to push down the ends here so we make sure they're not sticking out so they can catch or scratch on anything. And then from here we need to start removing our base wires. So I'm just going to start from the bottom. So the wire that have wraps running all the way along. So this one here, I'm just going to separate that one out first and get that out of the weave. Now it can maybe be a little bit tight to pull this out, so you can always take a pair of pliers and just grab onto the wire and then grab onto the weave with your fingers down here, because using a pair of pliers you have a better grip than you do with your fingers. But then you just want to pull the wire out like that. So you can see we've now left with the wire missing on the bottom there. What we then need to do is grab the 0.4mm wire that we already cut ready, and then we basically want to replace the base wire that we just pulled out with this one. So just bring this all the way through, bring it into about the middle of the weaving wire here. I then need to take the end and then bring it through again, just in the same direction. It comes out on the other end there. So we basically end up with a bit of a circle, but that's going through that bottom row on our weave. Now from there we can go in and remove the rest of the base wires. So just take a few at a time, remove those, pull the last ones out, and then here we have our weave section done. And then basically what we need to do now is shape this into place. So you can first of all start using your hands and fingers to just kind of put a curve into it, making sure that the weave sections point outward. And we basically need to end up with the bottom row where we have wraps running all the way along, turned into more or less a circle. So just keep bringing it around, and you can then pull the 0.4mm wire tight as we go along as well, and also use that to help create the shape. So just keep working your way around. And then you can just cross the ends of the 0.4mm there to also then help pull this tighter. So we end up with more of that circle shape. Now don't worry if it's not perfect. You can still keep adjusting it. But also you can always use pliers to help just get everything more in place. So just to help encourage that circle shape a little bit more. Bring the ends a bit more in towards each other. So we have something like this. Now what I'm going to do is take one of the ends here of the 0.4mm and start to bring it up over the front of the piece, and we can then grab our bead, add it onto the end of that wire, let it drop all the way down, because this bead isn't going to sit over the top, and basically fill in the gap that the circle created in the middle there. So bring it over from the side that's coming from over to the very opposite side there. So you can see it's going straight across and fits in just perfectly. Now I'm then going to take the end here and come up through that circle in the middle, but from the back, and then just pull it all the way through. And then as I'm pulling this tight, I'm going to make sure that this weaving wire goes in between some of those wraps there, and basically just slots in place, and that makes it nice and tight with the bead sitting on there. And then just bring it around again to go towards the back. Now we then just need to finish off the other end as well. So with this, again, I'm going to just grab the end and straight away bring it from the back through that circle there out towards the front, just where that wire is already coming out from the wrap sections from. And then pull that nice and tight, bring it around again, and if you feel like you need to, you can always just bring it through again, just for that extra security. Pull that tight, and then bring it around towards the back. And then we can just go in and get rid of these tails here. So just cut close to where the wire is wrapping around, just making sure to leave a short little end of about 1 millimeter or 2. The same with the other one, because we can then use a pair of pliers to just squeeze that end in place. Basically just kind of continue the wrap in the direction that it's going and just tuck the end away. Just do the same with the other one. And then just make sure to run your finger over it so you can't feel any wire ends, because we don't want them to catch or scratch on your skin or clothes while wearing it. But then what we need to do is just do any final touches to make it look how we want. So what you can do is leave the wrap sections like this where they're really tight and close together, or you can also make it so they're a bit further apart, basically separate them out from each other a little bit. It's completely up to you and the look that you want, and also how much you separate them will of course determine the look as well. So just do whatever you want to. Just separate them a bit from each other if you want to. Try and make it symmetrical all the way along until you're happy with how it looks. And then you have your finished Northern Star here that you can then do with whatever you want. So I just want to show you another version that you can do. So the one I showed you how to make before is literally the basic technique for this, and you can always play around with it and make it more unique to how you want yours to look. So for instance, the one I have here, you can see looks a little bit different. We still have those sections of weaves that go all the way out, but in between I've then made some smaller ones where I just have the kind of medium section there that comes out all by itself, and that kind of just separates it out a bit more, and this will also turn out to be larger. So just to tell you what I've done, we started out with 2 single wraps around the bottom base wire, then a medium length wrap, then 3 single wraps, and then that weaved section, the same as we did before. And then we basically keep repeating that, so we have 3 single wraps, 1 medium, 3 single, and then that weaved section. And again, you do those 4 times, so you have 4 of each of the wrap sections. And otherwise everything else is exactly the same, but for this one though, I did also use an 8mm bead instead of a 6mm in the middle. Now here we do end on 1 single wrap on the bottom base wire, and that's just so we end up with 3 in total once we put the whole thing together, which is the same that we have between them. So it's just to show you that you can do different variations of this, and you can obviously even experiment even more and come up with your own. And then all you want to do to be able to use this and attach it to something is take a jump ring here, open it up, and then you just want to put it through one of the outer or longest points there, and you can literally close it back up, and then basically just use one of the points in the star itself as a type of bail, and then you can add your earring findings and you'll have a cute little starry earring or chain, and you'll have it as a delicate nice little necklace with the star hanging on your neckline there. You can attach it as a charm to a charm bracelet, or you can even make a ring band and then attach this to it so you have a lovely Northern Star ring like this. Now I do have a separate tutorial where I've shown how to make a ring band and attach a design to it. So what I'm going to do is link that in the description box down below, and it'll also be in a card up here so you can easily access that. And you'll literally just make the ring band and then attach this using the weaving wire in the same way as I show in that video. And of course you can also just use this as a lovely Christmas decoration. So the possibilities are really endless. So that is how you make this Wirework Northern Christmas Star, whether you want to make jewellery with it, which will make a lovely whole set of jewellery as well, Christmas decorations, or anything else you can think of. So it's really quite a simple technique that can make some lovely delicate jewellery, but like I said, you can play around with the basics and make it completely your own. Now if you want to check out more Christmas themed designs, I have loads on my channel. In fact, I have a playlist full of them. So if you wait till the end of the video, I'm going to make sure to leave a link to that. It has lots of different mediums within it as well. Otherwise, like always, I really hope you enjoyed this one. Thank you so much for watching it, and I'll see you in the next one.